Welcome, dear listeners, to a discussion of the heroes of the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. It was indeed a race weekend marked by epic performances, historic firsts, and timeless displays of racing skill and strategy. Let's start with the Red Bull superstar, Max Verstappen. The weekend was nothing short of dominant for him. Leading every practice session, all three segments of qualifying, setting the fastest lap, and ultimately clinching the race itself, Verstappen proved that his struggles in Singapore were simply an outlier, an exception to his formidable prowess. One can't help but take note of Oscar Piastri, the rising star from Down Under, who secured his maiden Formula One podium at Suzuka. To say that Piastri's performance was impressive would be a massive understatement. The lad had never raced at the track before, and yet, he gradually improved throughout practice, even out-qualifying his seasoned teammate, Lando Norris. Piastri not only held his own in the race but achieved a career-best start and finish. A performance for the history books, wouldn't you say? Then, of course, we have George Russell, finishing 7th and behind his teammate, but nonetheless showcasing his racing mettle. Engaging in thrilling wheel-to-wheel battles, racing hard but fair, Russell demonstrated great determination and car placement, even when faced with a grip deficit. His ability to stay cool, calm, and composed, avoiding getting caught up in a failing strategy, made it a commendable damage control day for him. Esteban Ocon is another name that simply has to be mentioned. The Frenchman had a challenging weekend, qualifying 14th and sustaining damage at the start of the race. But he made a one-stop strategy work, conserving his tires and finishing in a respectable 9th place, despite having to pit under the safety car to replace his front wing and swap to a set of hard tires. Talk about making the best out of a tough situation. Finally, we have the consistently brilliant Lando Norris, finishing in 2nd place. As the McLaren team's star driver, Norris has been performing exceptionally well, consistently delivering podium finishes as his car continues to improve. Even though his teammate Piastri out-qualified him and achieved his best career finish, Norris showcased impressive race pace, finishing almost as far ahead of Piastri as Verstappen did of him. This young McLaren prodigy certainly has the potential to become a Formula One winner, should Verstappen or Red Bull falter. So, there you have it, the heroes of the Japanese Grand Prix, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, Esteban Ocon, and Norris, each leaving their indelible mark on an unforgettable weekend at Suzuka. So before we carry on with our in-depth analysis of the Suzuka Grand Prix, let's take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'm George, a former radio presenter turned Formula One podcast enthusiast, here in place of your usual host, Enzo. And joining me today is the eloquent and insightful, Mr. William, one of the most respected voices in the world of Formula One.
A pleasure to be here, George.
We're here on the F1 Motor Fever podcast channel, bringing you the Thursday morning special episodes, where we dig deep into the epic and historical moments of the Formula One world. If you're new here, we'd be thrilled to have you join the F1 Motor Fever podcast family, so don't forget to click that subscribe button, activate notifications, and leave us a comment. And if you're already part of the family, share the love and tell your friends about us. It immensely helps us keep the podcast running.
And we appreciate every bit of support.
Couldn't have said it better, William. Now, why did we choose to talk about the heroes of the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka? Well, it's not just because it was a race filled with extraordinary performances and strategic masterclasses, but also because it's a testament to the ever-evolving nature of Formula One. It's a story of dominance, firsts, determination, strategy, and consistency, and it's a story we believe you'll find as fascinating as we do.
Absolutely, George. And it's these kinds of stories that make Formula One so captivating.
Perfectly put, William. So, fancy more detail on these epic performances? Stick with us, folks. Because here at F1 Motor Fever Podcast, we are always full throttle. So, let's delve a little deeper into the performances of these heroes of the Japanese Grand Prix. And, who better to start with than the race winner, Max Verstappen. Now, it's no secret that Verstappen has been absolutely phenomenal this season. But it seems like he had a point to prove in Japan, following a couple of less-than-stellar races by his standards, particularly in Singapore.
Oh, absolutely. He came to Japan on a mission.
Indeed, and what a mission it was. Verstappen led every practice, aced all three segments of qualifying, won the race and even set the fastest lap. Talk about a dominant weekend, and in a season that's already been filled with dominant weekends for him.
And let's not forget the mental victory in proving that his struggles in Singapore were an anomaly and not related to any technical directives.
Spot on. But the most impressive part, in my opinion, was his qualifying effort. At Suzuka, a circuit hailed as a driver's track, he outperformed his teammate by 3/4 of a second and his closest challenger by over half a second. It was the largest pole margin at Suzuka since 2004.
It certainly was a performance for the history books. He really showcased his talent and determination that weekend.
Well, if there's one thing we've learned this season, it's to never underestimate the power of a determined Verstappen. Moving from the race winner to another notable performer, Oscar Piastri. Now, is a young man who secured his very first Formula One podium at Suzuka, becoming the first rookie to do so since 2017. Quite an achievement, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And let's not forget, this is a lad who is keeping Lando Norris, one of the most praised drivers on the current grid, on his toes over the last few Grand Prix.
Indeed. And to add to his impressive performance, Piastri managed this feat at a circuit where he'd never raced before. Suzuka, as we know, is a tough and technical racetrack where experience is typically key.
That's right. The level of commitment required at Suzuka is second to none. And to think that Piastri managed to showcase such an impressive performance on his first outing there is truly commendable.
It certainly is, and it just goes to show that talent can shine through, regardless of experience. From Verstappen's dominance to Piastri's maiden podium, this race was truly one for the books, wouldn't you agree?
I couldn't agree more. It was a weekend of remarkable performances that truly showcased the talent and determination of these extraordinary drivers.
Now, speaking of impressive performances, let's talk about George Russell. Now, on the surface, a 7th place finish might not seem particularly noteworthy. But if you look a little closer, Russell's race was genuinely impressive.
I couldn't agree more. He showcased some brilliant wheel-to-wheel battles and raced hard but fair. Even when he was at an obvious grid deficit during the later stages of his stints, he showed excellent car placement and a lot of fight.
Absolutely. It reminds me of the last race when a certain driver had to dig deep and fight for their place, even though they were struggling with the car. It's moments like these that truly define a driver's skill and determination.
Funny you should mention that. It reminds me of a situation I experienced during my racing days. It was a similar scenario, and I had to pull out all the stops to maintain my position. It was challenging, but definitely one of the most fulfilling moments of my career.
That's exactly what it's all about. Being able to keep pushing, even when the odds are against you. It's what separates the good drivers from the truly great ones. So, hats off to George Russell for his impressive performance at Suzuka. Moving on to another driver who had quite a day, let's talk about Esteban Ocon. Alpine might not have had a stellar weekend, with Ocon qualifying only 14th. Conditions worsened right off the start with some mayhem causing damage and a need for a new front wing. However, Ocon managed to turn things around.
How so?
Well, he took advantage of the safety car situation to pit and switch to hard tires. Despite the track's high speeds and abrasive surface making it tough on tires, Ocon only stopped once more after his initial pit stop for repairs. This effectively put him on the same strategy as Russell, who's the only one officially credited with a one-stopper.
Can you give us some examples of what strategic decisions like these can mean for a race?
Of course. Let's say, you're in a chess match. You lose a pawn early on, it seems like a setback, but you use that to your advantage, using your remaining pieces more strategically to control the board. That's a similar idea to what happened with Ocon. He had a setback with the initial damage, but by making the most of the safety car period and then managing his tires effectively for the rest of the race, he was able to make a significant recovery. It's all about turning a disadvantage into an opportunity.
That's an insightful analogy. It really brings home the importance of strategic thinking and adaptability in Formula One.
Let's not forget about Lando Norris, who found himself in 2nd place. As the McLaren car has improved, so too has Norris. He's been absorbing pressure and converting it into podiums, showing that McLaren is consistently looking like the 2nd fastest car on the grid.
Hold on, could you elaborate a bit on that?
Absolutely. You see, as the season has progressed, the McLaren team has made significant strides with their car, the MCL 60. The car's performance has improved, and Norris, as their star driver, has stepped up to meet the challenge. His ability to handle pressure has been outstanding, resulting in consistent podium finishes.
And what about his performance compared to his teammate, Piastri?
Well, although Piastri has been improving and gaining attention, Norris has continued to prove he's the more seasoned driver of the two. While Piastri did beat Norris in qualifying and recorded the best finish of his young career, Norris's race pace was undeniable. He finished nearly as far ahead of Piastri, with a difference of 17 seconds, as Verstappen did of him, with a 19-second gap.
Ah, I see. So Norris is still showing he's the top dog at McLaren despite the rise of the rookie, Piastri.
Exactly. It's a fascinating dynamic to watch unfold. And let's not forget one crucial detail. If there's even a slight slip-up from Verstappen and Red Bull, Norris stands a strong chance of becoming a Formula One winner.
That's an exciting prospect. It really shows just how close the competition is at the top.
Absolutely. It encapsulates the beauty of this sport. One moment, one decision can change everything. It's not just about the speed, but also strategy, teamwork, and a bit of luck.
Indeed. It's about seizing the moment when opportunity presents itself. And Norris certainly has the skill and the car to do just that.
That's very true. It's going to be fascinating to see how the rest of the season unfolds. One thing's for sure, we're in for an exciting ride. Well, that wraps up another thrilling episode of F1 Motor Fever podcast. We've had a fun ride today, exploring the performances of a few standout drivers and the strategic plays that made a difference on the track. If you've enjoyed our journey through the world of Formula One as much as we have, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Every click, every share, every comment helps us bring more of this content to you. And don't forget to tell your mates about us. Whether you're at the pub, dinner table, or sharing in your social media groups, spread the love.
Yeah, and remember, we've got more petrol in the tank. There's plenty more exciting content coming your way. So, keep those seatbelts fastened and your engines revving, because you won't want to miss what's up next on the track.
Absolutely. We're immensely grateful for your support and enthusiasm. It's what keeps our wheels turning. And I've got to give a special shout out to Enzo. I have a feeling you're going to absolutely love this episode.
And on that note, I think it's time for our signature sign-off. George Watson and William Turner, pedal to the metal, keep your gaze on the road, our channel's content is pure gold.